Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You never know what life is going to throw you. Things should be fabulous one moment, and then life happens, things happen. It's to be expected. And now it feels like you're in the middle of a vortex. Could be a hurricane, could be almost feel like an earthquake where things are all shaky, but you got to do life anyway. So how do you do that? How do you stand firm when things are shaking around you and navigate through that to get to the other side and then continue life the way it should be? Or maybe it's a new life, maybe it's a change in life and you have to accept it. We're going to talk about that today and some of the tools you can use to navigate through those situations. And she's somebody that helps people with that all the time and in many different areas too. The more I talk with her, the more I love her. Loved her from day one, but more and more when I learned that she helps with relationships. She's certified in that, by the way, but also life coaching and removing blocks and barriers and all that. And she's Kristina Smith. She's back with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Absolutely great.
I want to add too that you are a certified dream builder coach. So,
Correct.
and I feel that's important to say because we all have dreams, whether you admit them or not. You're always thinking about what life could be like, maybe, even if life is fantastic. Yeah, it's always evolving, and I think we can never forget that. But life is life. Things are going to happen. So when they do, and your world is rocked a little bit, what's the first thing you should think of? What's the first step in dealing with that situation?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Steve. And one of the things that I have become very aware of through years of researching and reading on this topic is we are all co-creating the life that we live. And so we're actually creating it by design or by default, meaning because of what we think and what we pay attention to and what we say, we're actually creating the experiences we're having.
Mm,
So, one of the things that I think is really important is to be very intentional, to really think about and focus on what do you want. Now, like you just said so beautifully, there are times when things come up, and there are all kinds of things. Um, a happy couple who has a child, and there's no way in their psyche that they think that they're going to have a child who has an illness, a child who has cancer, or a child who has mental disabilities, or, it's just like so many times you ask a couple, what do you want, a boy or a girl? And most often I hear people say, I just want a healthy baby,
sure.
because we know if that child is not healthy. So it's like all of us, even though we're co-creating the experiences we have, we're also thrown these curveballs, and it throws us off track. And so I think the first step is to really stop and figure out what are the tools and resources I already have. What do I already have? Who's the community around me, if there is one? And how do I use those resources? How do I um, check in with other people and see if there's some kind of support? I think that that's really, really, really important, because there are times when I might not be doing so well, but someone who's stronger can lend me some support.
I've learned this, and I want your feedback on it. That, and I guess it's the mindset that when something happens, I used to react to it like, "Oh my God, what is going? Oh, I can't believe this." How's it going to impact that over there? And it could even be business related. Something you didn't expect, and it would go on for a while. Whereby now, and I know this, some will say, "Well, it's the rose-colored glasses," but now when things present themselves, especially in a business sense, and it can sting. It can sting.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I I shut it down, or I pivot away from worrying about it, and I flip it and I look at it as an opportunity. Let's say you're in sales. Let's say you had an account cancel, maybe two. It's like, oh my God, like that's my income. What am I going to do? Well, not good. Understood. But
Mhm.
maybe that's the fuel to now kick you in and push you even a little bit harder. Or maybe the universe is saying, that's not what you should be doing. We got something over here that's way better. But you need to go in that direction and accept what that is. Um, I often wonder if that mindset is denial or it's just a mindset of, I'm not going to worry about it. It's all going to work out. We're going to be good with it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think being curious and optimistic whenever you can is really, really important. I'm going to give you an example. When my husband and I were going to purchase a home many, many, many years ago, we found a house we really loved. We put a contract on it, and someone else put a contract on it before we did, and the other couple got the house. And so I was really disappointed.
Mm,
Same situation happened a couple of weeks later. We found the perfect house. So we thought, put a contract on it, and it didn't work out. So it was devastating because we had two small kids and they each needed their own room. And finally, we put a contract on the third house, and lo and behold, it was actually the better of the three.
mm,
And I was just so glad that we didn't get too down about it. So one of the things, I don't know whether you've ever heard this story, but I got to tell you a really quick story.
sure.
I have trained myself, and again, people may say the same thing. I have rose-colored glasses on, but I've trained myself when something goes wrong. I don't care if it's something really small, like I stubbed my toe or I'm in a car accident, minor fender bender. I have trained myself to say that's great. That's great. And at the moment, I
Mm,
might not even be able to tell you why it's great, but that's where I go is that's great. So I heard this story once and I laughed because I had been doing this for years before I heard the story. So there was this king, and I'm going to call the king Zainab, and he had a best friend named Peter. And Zainab and Peter were friends when they were very, very young. And what happened was, as they got older, Zainab became the king, and Peter was his right hand person. And one day they went out to
mm,
practice shooting, skeet shooting or bird shooting or whatever.
sure.
And Peter loaded the rifle, gave it to Zainab, the king. And when the king went to pull it, the whatever it is that you pull back, the whatever,
To
his
cock the rifle.
yeah, right,
Yep.
right, right. His thumb got stuck and actually broke. It actually broke his thumb.
Ooh.
And so the thumb had to be removed because it was broken and it wasn't going to heal. So they removed the thumb. He was so mad at Peter that literally what he did was he threw him in the dungeon at the castle. He threw him in the dungeon. And he stayed in there for a year, going on 2 years. And one day the king went out and was captured by some people who decided they were going to sacrifice him to the gods. They put him in a pot. They started the fire underneath him and saw that he did not have a thumb. And
Mm,
they don't offer to the gods someone who's not whole. So they let him go. And as riding his horse back to the castle, he
sure.
goes in to tell Zainab, he goes in to tell Peter, who's been in the dungeon for 2 years, you were right all along. You were right. That was great that my thumb was broken. And he said, yes, absolutely. And he said, it was great that I was in jail. And the king looked at him and said, why? And he said, because if I had been out of jail, I would have been with you.
Mm,
And what that means is he had a whole body, they would have sacrificed him. So it's the kind of thing where sometimes you don't understand what the blessing is in the moment.
yep.
If we can assert this is a blessing. This is something that's going to benefit me, even though I don't understand it right now.
Yep.
You know, even when I think about 9/11, there were some people whose kids were going to kindergarten the first day, not at the World Trade Center, but someplace else. And or the CEO who stopped to get coffee, for his team and so on and so forth. It's like how unusual that people didn't end up in that place on that particular day and at that particular time. So
Mhm.
we just don't know.
It's funny you should say that because there is a survey poll that came out today, and it's about things that we say that people are tired of hearing.
Mm,
There's a whole bunch of them, but the one that stood out for me was things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. I get it. It's a little worn out. We hear
yeah.
it a lot.
Mhm.
However, I think there's truth to it. And I don't have scientific proof, but when you look at some of the examples you're giving and we look at our lives, that maybe that needed to happen so this could happen so that could happen.
Absolutely.
Um, and then you can go on down the spiritual road and maybe the religious road if you so choose, that there's a plan. There's some
Yeah.
kind of plan in place,
Yeah.
and one day we'll understand. But for now, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
I want to go back when you said in a situation you were laughing.
Hmm.
So always, I don't know if I shared this. I've always been afraid of needles,
Yes. Hmm.
and had some recent medical stuff going on. And I flipped that mindset from, oh God, they're sticking a needle in me to now laughing. I like
Hmm.
a kid. I don't
Hmm.
know what happened. It's like even when there's, I hear some pain, there's going to be some pain, whatever. I laugh. I'm like, I'm sorry, I made me laugh at you, with the medical practitioner. But it's almost as if now my mindset has flipped in another direction to not look at it as a negative, to look at it as something kind of fun. I wonder how much pain is going to be there. How much can I
Yeah.
withstand?
Yeah.
Um, and then, sometimes, when, needles going in, I put my hand out and I'm like, and that's good. Um, but it's kind of fun now. I know that sounds maybe barbaric or
No,
weird.
no, no, no. Steve, you're hitting the nail on the head. When I'm in a situation where it doesn't make sense to me, I literally stop and say, what what's another way I can look at this? What's another perspective? What else can I think about this? It is so helpful. I read once that most people live the same life over and over and over again for 99 times. Some people live 99 years and have the same experience day in and day out because they don't challenge the way they think.
Mm,
And so they have the same experiences. And other people create, they're very intentional about how they spend their time. They're intentional about what they focus on. And I'm always focusing on what can I control? And in most cases, I can only control me and I can only control my thinking about a
yes.
situation.
Yeah. And that's key. And we don't think about that.
Mm-mm.
We don't think about that. And
No.
I even said that to somebody recently. Write down what you're feeling, express it so you can see it in front of you and take stock in the things that you can't control. You can't do anything about it. It happened. It is what it is. That's another phrase people don't like.
Yeah, it is.
However, that's it. I I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Saying it is what it is.
Right. And I think I'm going to add to that. I think it has to do with the energy that you put on that. If it if it
Mm,
it is what it is, like I don't have any control over it, that's one kind of energy. Another kind of energy is, oh, it is what it is. So let me see how to work with this or work around this or whatever.
you're right. I totally agree with you. Yeah, that is the different context when somebody
Mhm.
says, "Well, it is what it is,"
Yeah,
or if you said, "Well, it is what it is,"
right,
can't,
exactly.
meaning can't do anything about it. Um, some people say you're accepting something that's unacceptable,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I disagree.
Yeah,
It's once again, it's saying what we said before. You can't control it.
Right.
And that's what
Well,
it is.
I don't mean to get too scientific here, but I am telling you, I read a fabulous book many years ago, and it was called Alice in Quantum Land.
Great title.
I didn't get through the whole book because it was so science laden in scientific research and terminology and so on and so forth. But I read enough of it to get the point. And the point was we actually have a lot more influence over what we experience. I'm going to boil this down to as simple a point as I can. And the point was in any given moment, there are many different things we can focus on. We can focus on, oh my God, it's raining today, traffic's going to be horrible, da da da. Or we can focus on, oh, it's raining today. Maybe there won't be as much traffic as there is normally.
Mm.
And what this book said, and I've read probably 50 other books around the same concept, is that what you choose to focus on is what you're going to experience. I don't know whether I share with you this story about Wayne Dyer was someone I followed for many years. You know, a long time ago, I studied speech pathology. And in speech pathology, you don't reward your client, whether it's a preschooler or someone who's had a stroke, until they demonstrate the sound you're trying to get them to say. So if you're trying to get them to say "ba," the letter B, "ba," and they don't come close to that, or even if they come close, but they're not doing the sound exactly, you don't reward them for that. And so it's the concept of I'll believe it when I see it. Wayne Dyer wrote a book called You'll See It When You
And you
Believe It.
believe it. Ooh.
And it took the breath out of me because everything I had learned up until that point was focused around the science of first
Mm.
something has to happen and then you can see it. And what Alice in Quantum Land and all these other books by Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, lots of other people, and even books going back to the 1800s are talking about this concept of
Wow.
what you focus on is actually what you bring into existence.
Manifestation.
Yes, it's fascinating.
It really is. It
You
really
know,
is.
I want to share this with you too. One time I went through a string of bad bosses. Oh my God.
Been there, done that.
Yes, lots of them. And one day around the Christmas holidays many years ago, I decided, you know what, that's it. I'm drawing the line in the sand. That's it. I'm out of here. Now I'm not going to quit until I get another job. But because I was so deliberate about that Monday, so this was on a Friday during Christmas holidays, that Monday, a person called me and invited me to come and apply for one of 5 positions open at their company. And there's a backstory to that. I had done some public relations work and I had connected with this person. But anyway, and I went, and when I came home the first day of that job, my husband said, how was your first day at work? And I said, it was great. And he said, what? And I said, I got the best boss in the world. And he said, how do you know that? I said, because that's what I'm creating.
Mm.
And we used to have a stand-up huddle every morning for 5 minutes at my boss's desk. And I would be standing there thinking, you are the best boss I've ever had. You are the best boss I've ever had. When I was driving, I'd be thinking, you're the best boss I've ever had. I did that constantly. When I tell you, Steve, to this day, he is the best boss I ever had.
Wow.
Unbelievable. He set me up, and I was just starting down a particular career path. He set me up for success. I had no choice but to fly based on all that he poured into me in terms of training and development. And, when he gave me my performance evaluation, it was 3 hours long. And he gave me everything that I was doing exceptionally well. He gave
Wow.
me the areas that he said, you're a B in this. If you want to move to an A, this is what I need you to do. He said, "You're a C plus here, but I've enrolled you in this course at Maryland University." So we can get you. I mean, it was just incredible.
Now, I don't want to run out of time. I want to keep talking with you. It's like
Oh my God.
this is so cool. What if that boss out of the gate, yeah, you just weren't feeling it so much? Like,
Mhm.
he's an okay person, but uh, uh, do you think that it would have worked the same if you kept focusing, he is the best boss? He is the
Yes,
best boss, no
yes,
matter what. Even
yes.
it sounded like he was a good person to begin with, and now it became a even better
No.
person.
At another time, I have hundreds of stories like this where
Mm,
I took something that was not the way I wanted it and transformed it
mm.
based on my thinking. Very profound. This works consistently if you work it.
Agreed. Agreed. And sometimes we lose faith in it. We kind
Hmm.
of give up, especially when manifesting, just there's a principle for that. Talk
Yeah,
about it another time. But
definitely.
also seeing the signs of universe. For example, let's say, and I can relate to this. Let's say, you know, business wise, things changed over here a little bit and it kind of rocked your world. You're like, what the heck? What's going on over here? This changed. Maybe it is the universe saying that you should focus over here instead of looking at it as woe's me. Oh my gosh. Yes. Ouch. Yeah, I get it. Rip the
Yes,
band-aid off. It's bad.
yes. Hmm.
I don't want to say it's bad, but it's challenging.
Yeah, absolutely.
That may be the universe telling you to shift a little bit. Maybe not a completely different career path, but maybe the way you do things. Maybe it is just your mindset, which will lead you to something else, which will lead you to ultimately more abundance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt. I've seen it hundreds of times in my own life, and I coach other people to do the same thing. And they're getting the same results that I've gotten.
Mm,
So
yep.
that's so exciting to me.
Meaning that it wasn't just a
A fluke.
coincidence.
A fluke.
Right,
Right.
right. And time and again, well, here's an example of the manifestation thing.
Yeah.
I've started manifesting the perfect parking spot,
Oh, good. Okay.
and I do it on a regular basis. And it's almost as if I'm a VIP showing up and my space is waiting for me.
I
And
love
I
it.
know it sounds ridiculous. And
Nope.
I'll
I love it.
always say, I roll on positivity. I always say, if somebody needs that space more than me, let them have it, please.
Yes.
And so many examples over the last year or two I could give of that. I remember Crowded Village, summertime, yeah, 15 minutes away from, not even from here. I was going to meet somebody to grab something to eat, and there were no spaces. And I manifested. I'm like, show me a space, show me a space. And me and this other gentleman were next to each other, driving our cars, looking for spaces. And his family, kids in the back, and everything, car seats, a whole deal, young kids. And then I see a space, and I'm like, you take that, because I know you need it. But then I look up, and he's like, there's another space 3 cars over. It was packed. And
Yes.
very shortly here, there was another time in another village. You don't get spaces there.
Yeah.
I was going to stay overnight. It was a hotel. You don't get spaces. There are
Mhm.
none. It's just, there's like, maybe 15. And if not, then you're walking, a mile and pull up the hotel and there's the valet and it's like $49 to park. Not even kidding. I'm like,
Yeah.
woof. And I did
Yeah.
manifest leading up to it. And I did do a lap around, did another one, no spaces. And I'm sitting there, and the valet guy's like, hey, what are you going to do? And I'm looking at him, and I just turn my head and I see somebody get into their car and somebody near them, and he kisses them goodbye. And he's sitting in there in a second. And I look at him like, are you leaving? He goes, yeah, I'm leaving. That was a better space than the valet spot.
Yeah.
I manifested.
Of
It,
course.
it works. Try it. What do you got to lose? It's fun.
Well, I just want to say this. I know we have to wrap up, but I just want to say this. It's fascinating. People think it is very woo woo. However, there are so many neuroscientists and
Yeah.
neurologists who are coming out with scientific data that supports this stuff. This is not just oh, let's think positively. No, there is a real science behind this, and I love it. I'm glad
Mm,
they're really
mm.
documenting this stuff.
It's exciting.
It is. It is. It
It's
is.
like being an artist and you have a canvas and you're going to create what you want,
Hmm.
but you have to believe in what you're creating. And I know it can be easy to get defeated, and give up. Hey, I gave up. I'm going to admit the manifesting thing. This parking spaces, that's a low level and it
Right,
works.
right, right, right.
But, on the bigger level, I don't know why, I sort of gave up. I got to get back to it in terms of, vision boards and all of that. But maybe that's another, manifesting another thing to talk about. But all lies in what we're talking about here in terms of your struggles when you're dealing,
Yes.
how to deal with them. How do we
Absolutely.
connect with you, Christina?
The best way is to just give me a call. I am at 202 630 0382. That's 202 630 0382.
I love what you do. I love your approach and how you run deep, even in the science aspect, but you make it easy to understand.
Yeah.
And that is your superpower. It really is cool. Like, the things that I wondered about, you validated, but in an easy to understand way. And that, yes, this is all possible. It's all
Absolutely.
possible to live a good life. Thank you again. Look forward to getting together
Thank you,
next time.
Steve. Take care. Have a good one.
You too.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.